For January 23rd, we're talking about how we connect with others, how we connect with our spirituality. Um, what does that look like when there might be a break in connection or the sense of a break in connection, and what we might do when we feel those things. Hi, I'm Candy. I'm a hypnotherapist who's deconstructing from evangelical Christianity, and I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non-religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. So for January 23rd in the Book of Awakening, Mark Nepo talks about how sometimes when we say something, we have something that we really need to get off our chest, for lack of a better phrase, something you want to say from your heart. And you're telling it to somebody and they don't receive it in the way you expected. Maybe there's some hostility, confusion. Maybe they appear to be ignoring you. And it doesn't mean that the other person is rejecting or ignoring you. It could be that they just cannot hear you. Maybe physically they might not be able to hear you. So kind of make sure of that. But, it might be that their perspective is kind of, it's running through the filter of their perspective, and you're communicating through the filter of your own perspective. So keeping in mind this oneness and that we all have these different perspectives, but we're all connected, can help you. So sometimes you have to say something that is important to you in different ways. Saying it once is not, oftentimes is not going to solve the concern or help you be heard and understood. It takes a lot of conversations sometimes, and the right kind of environment, and being mindful of that, and kind of um, being willing to say it different ways without creating the story that the person is rejecting you or ignoring you. Now, I'm not saying that never happens, because it does, that someone might be outright rejecting or ignoring you because of their own issues they've got going on. It has nothing, it's not personal. It's their own things, even though it feels very personal in the moment. If you can keep that in mind, you won't waste your energy trying to express those very tender parts of you that need to be shared if the person's not being sincere or honest. And that's okay. That's information for you. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the book by Mel Robbins, The Let Them Theory. And she's basically saying even if somebody does like kind of blow you off, if you're saying something very heartfelt and they're not listening, or it feels like they're ignoring you, or they don't care, or they're just set in their ways, they don't want to hear you, let them do that, because you'd rather them give you a genuine rejection than an inauthentic acting like they're listening. You want to know, so then you can make a clear decision as to whether you continue to share with that person, whether you continue to remain in close connection. It's not close if they're not real and being honest and sincere, right? And it doesn't mean that they will never be that way. It just means they're not that way right now. And remember, you've been on the other side of that coin, that judgment coin. You've been the person who wasn't listening. You've been the person that didn't hear. And some of us might go, well, I don't think that's ever happened. Well, you wouldn't know because you didn't hear it. So we have to remember that we've been on both sides, and just to have compassion and then make wise decisions for ourselves. Because I can only choose for myself. I've had relationships where the person, I'm not a priority to that person. I've made them a priority, but they're not a priority to them. I'm not a priority to them. And instead of think evil of them, which I have struggled with, instead I remind myself, you know what? I'm that other person for somebody else, probably in some situation, or have been. And it doesn't mean I wouldn't change, because I've changed so much, and they could change. At some point, that could be different. But right now, with the situations they're in, the perspective they have, they can't hear me, and that's okay. That just leaves, now I can save my energy for those who can. And instead of judging the other, instead of judging yourself as though you're not important, because you are, you will have more energy for those who do see you in that way. And I have seen this work time and time again. I've also have family members that couldn't hear me at one point. When I began to deconstruct, it like blew up my whole world with my family. I was very close with my extended family, and that changed overnight. They went from believing I was just like going to heaven, I was a very good Christian, to I was going to hell, I was a heretic, just overnight. And not because of anything I did, but because my beliefs had changed. And so now, 15 years later, I'm finally seeing some of them come around and go, hey, you're not what I thought. Like you're still you. You're kind and loving, and you've been there for me. And my truest character is because I stayed steady, and I have not changed who I am. I'm still that person that was loving and kind and there for them when they needed me. And they've seen that steady character stay the same, regardless of whether I believed in the same, had the same religious beliefs as them or not. So that's a light to them. And some of them are coming around, and some of them have been around for a while, that have, just loved me as I am, even though their beliefs haven't necessarily changed. And some of the beliefs are changing. So because it causes this conflict, like I see this person in my life who doesn't believe in Jesus like I do. And they're supposed to, according to my religion, be deserving of hell. But I can't hold that belief when I see them up close. I love them. They're kind. I would not put them in an eternal torture chamber. So it causes this internal conflict that can have them go on this journey where they need to resolve that, and the beliefs can change and mold so they can begin to understand this oneness and then be more compassionate to themselves and to others. In Jesus Calling, basically, this is more about how you connect with Jesus, which will show up in how you relate to others, I guess, in a way. So basically, she says, Sarah Young says that Jesus knows that you're human, and he's going to love you no matter what, because his love doesn't have limits or conditions, which is not the message you receive when you when you deconstruct. When you deconstruct, even though many of us leave because we are following Jesus, or that is our understanding, we truly believe we are following the truth. And I do believe that that is true. We are told basically we deserve hell now. We never were believers. So Jesus' love definitely has limits. You have to stay within the belief system. That's what you learn. And you don't necessarily learn that until you leave, but you kind of know it when you're in it. Like, you have to live a certain way. You cannot just live any old way you please. You have to stay within the system's limits. And you have to believe in Jesus in a very specific way, because that's what started my deconstruction, was believing that Jesus, the second coming, wasn't at all what we have been taught, but was like the book of Revelation was is fulfilled. When this temple fell in 70 AD, that was the fulfillment of God saying that old system, that old religious system is done. Stop following it, stop moving that direction, and just walk in your authenticity and life and freedom. And yet that freedom in Christianity became just another system. So I don't think was what Jesus was teaching whatsoever. I don't think he intended to create a religion at all, but that is what people did. And there was a limit. If you don't believe like this, you're a heretic, you're out. And they did that right away. There was different types of followers of Jesus at the time when Constantine was trying to bring peace to the Roman Empire, which was a lot of unrest. And so they picked one version of Christianity out of the many types of followers of Jesus. They picked that one, and that one became the official state religion. And that's how Christianity was born. It wasn't born by Jesus. It was started by Constantine and his group of religious zealots that were in that group. That group is the one that won out, and everybody else was considered a heretic. So overnight, they became heretics. And then they're related to people differently, right? Because now you have the truth because of the system, and anybody else different didn't. And that's where the love showed its condition. So you could even just say that that that's not Jesus, because love is unconditional. And even the Bible teaches that in 1 Corinthians 13. Doesn't keep a record of wrongs, which hell is the ultimate record of wrongs. It doesn't insist on its own way. But in Christianity, that version of Jesus insists on its own way. You do it my way. So there's a lot of contradictions. Another thing she mentions is that whispering Jesus with contentment often kind of gives you a gentle and quiet spirit. Not sure why this is put in there, but maybe you can make the connections. And that pleases him. And that your weakness, when you are needing to lean on him all the time, that brings him glory. And I think in the sense how they would use glory or glorifying Jesus is it shows up to others that God is doing it, not you in your situation. So this is how it relates kind of to others is they will look at you and they'll think about God and not about you. So they'll give God praise, not you. So that's kind of how you connect. You connect to God. And then as you follow God and lean on him, you will reflect that to others to follow that God. That's the hope, I think, that they teach. And that's the message I got. And in my utmost for his highest, Oswald Chambers talks about how Christians are mirrors and they need to be careful not to stain that mirror. And the things that stain it are usually good things, not the best things for you, but things that we like. And then he also says that Christians need to keep their lives open to God, completely spiritual through and through. Everything needs to be spiritual. And I guess you make it spiritual in a way. I do think everything can be spiritual because I think everything just comes from source. So it can also not be spiritual. So, and this one is just basically Christians thinking of themselves as mirrors. Why only Christians are mirrors? Because they reflect God is basically, even though even in the Bible, it just said mankind was made in the image of God, not became in the image of God when they do the right thing or believe the right thing, but they believe in a fall where we changed in that image. And it doesn't say that anywhere. And actually, when Adam and Eve in the story ate of the fruit, the Elohim, which is translated just God singular, but it was actually plural, said, now man is like us, knowing good from evil. So there's interesting things to the story. Whether it's true or not, it teaches things, I think, about life. So and it's interesting that he says the stains, once again, he's wanting you to not enjoy the good things in your life. Instead, there's just a damp towel thrown on everything. It's just not the best for you. It might be good, but it's just not the best. And so it gets you so that your mirror, you're not reflecting God perfectly. And I guess that would just be following the rules, whatever the rules are in your version of Christianity, which then is supposed to, help people see how good you are. But you know what this did to me? My dad did not talk about any flaws that he had. He would not talk about them. He would not talk about his past. He just tried to be perfect all the time. And you know what it did? It made him unapproachable to me. I felt very distant, very uncomfortable around my dad for that reason alone. Not because he did other things. There was the other things that, like he spanked us. So it created this fear. He wasn't great he did a lot of spiritual bypassing, but mostly because I never knew of his flaws. He would not talk about them, would not tell us about them. And I'm not saying you have to go around and tell about all the bad things you've done. I'm just saying, be real, be a human, show your mistakes and show how you learn from your mistakes. That's what a parent, I think, is healthy parenting. Let your kids see you make mistakes and then learn and adjust because of those mistakes. Because that helps them, because they are going to make mistakes and that's part of life. So, and I think when it says Christians are mirrors, no, we're all mirrors for one another. We project. When I am insecure about something, I can project that on others. I can project those insecurities saying they are saying things about me, which I'm actually saying about myself. There's a lot of that going on. So we're all mirrors, not just Christians. So that's all 3 books. Take what you will from those and go and have a great day. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.